What a moment! I'd love to do it again, but it's time for the debate. Ladies and gentlefolk, we have someone incredible to start this off. Thank you so much. You've absolutely packed this place. I think we're all going to have a really exciting and invigorating time. So would you please welcome, with warm applause, a visionary founder who has staged debates at events like COP, Climate Week, and Davos. Would you please welcome, with warm applause, Sophie Lambin.
Thank you, Stuart, for this wonderful warm-up. It's great to see that this audience has been prepared for what's to come. And Stuart will be coming back later, so something to look forward to. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon debate by Debatable. This is the first debate that we're doing on the GreenBiz stage, and what a stage and an audience to do this debate with. And we are very, very honored. It's the second debate that I will have personally the pleasure of doing with Joel Macara, who will be joining me in a minute as my co-moderator. I would like to start by introducing myself, which I constantly forget to do. By introducing myself, I'm Sophie Lambin. I'm the founder and CEO of Kite Insights and also the curator of Debatable. But also, I would like by thanking Kate, John, Joel, and the whole Trellis group, and all the people who have been involved in making this event possible. And I'd like to thank you for your trust in jumping headfirst in this innovative, albeit ancient debate format. So today, it's a little experiment. We are going to mix provocation with a little bit of theatrics, seasoned by humility, humanity even, and most importantly, substance. However, you ultimately be the judge of that. And in order for this format to work, I'm really going to ask you to engage with the process, not quite like the debaters and the jury members who will soon join us on stage, but given the topic and the audience, we really need you to embrace the spirit of debate. And in doing so, I'm going to ask you to hold judgment until the end. And I promise you won't be disappointed. So a few words on the topic. After Joel's beautiful introduction, I think he said it all. But what I might want to just underscore for you is that this debate is not whether CSOs currently lead critical work in their organization or in their communities. Nor does it question whether companies have a critical role to play and a responsibility in driving sustainability forward. Our intent, in fact, is quite the opposite. Is to ask, when sustainability becomes so politically charged, when organizations start pulling back or going quiet, what happens to the leaders who are expected to keep it moving? This is a moment, as Joel alluded to, this is a moment to step back and to take a beat and reflect on these forces that are impacting sustainability leadership and its future, and to really ask ourselves, what is our responsibility as leaders to evolve? Now, it takes courage to surface uncomfortable questions, and this one is clearly very close to home. And yes, at the heart of this debate, there is a desire to use tensions productively, and also to inject a bit of humor, to give opposing sides a moment to breathe, to understand what really is at stake, and to sharpen our collective understanding and sense of the choices ahead. And you, the audience, you have a critical, most important part to play in this debate. In the grand tradition of ancient debate, whether the Greek agora, the Roman forums, of the Great Hall of medieval disputation, the crowd was never passive. You were never a passive observer. Your job, their job, was to cheer, to hiss, to stamp their feet even. So remember, the energy you're going to inject into this debate is nearly as important as the words of the debaters. Now, Stuart has done a great job in already warming you up. in talking of high energy, I would like to ask you to join me in please welcoming back to the stage my co-moderator, dear friends, co-founder and chairman of Trellis Group, Joel McCauer.
Thank you, Sophie. Hello again, everyone. So how was your 20... Oh, wait, that's wrong. Sophie, it's always a great pleasure to be doing this with you again, and thank you for bringing this debatable to GreenBiz. We did this together in Dubai for COP 20.
He was a debater then.
Huh?
You were a debater then.
I was a debater then, and we took the unlikely or the unliked side and won, not because of me, because of one particularly great member of my team.
You had Rachel Kite on your side.
And then last year at Climate Week, we did this talking about nature and biodiversity, nature and AI, which was an interesting topic. But yeah, just let me do a little more setting of the stage here. You know, first of all, I think some people I saw on social, who saw we were doing this, said, why are you doing this? Aren't CSOs in enough, struggling right now? And it's like, yeah, but, are we snowflakes? Come on, we can do this. We can endure this. But I will say this, that if we're not willing to question ourselves, this would worry me far more than sort of taking this on. And, if we're going to succeed in this crazy, often upside-down world that we're in, we have to be willing to ask tough questions and to question all the answers. So nothing's sacred except perhaps the air, water, biodiversity that we all need and are working to help survive and thrive. So, and by the way, I think it's important that this motion talks about CSOs, but it's really a proxy for sustainability professionals of all types. So if you are a CSO, or work for one, or want to be one, or dating one, or anything of that sort, this is for and about you. So, hearing this motion on the GreenBiz stage might sound counterintuitive, right? But we're here to confront what this moment really means for the future of our leadership. And we at Trellis have long prided ourselves in creating the conditions for all of you and all of us to have difficult conversations in a safe space. And you, our beloved community, have trusted us to host those conversations and have participated with great willingness and candor and passion. So it's in that light that we're going to be debating this topic. It's now been roughly a quarter of a century since the first CSO was appointed, Linda Fisher at Dow back in 2001. So the field is now a quarter century later in its 20s. It's in the beginning of adulthood, and like most of us when we were in our 20s, if I can remember that far back, it was a critical time of becoming, of figuring out who the heck we are or wanted to be. And if we're lucky as humans, we never stop trying to figure that out. We're always becoming. We're always trying to figure out who we are, our purpose, and our highest, best use. So enough with that metaphor. Let's get on with this.
Well, thank you, Joel, and well said. And I love what you said. We are not losing, we are learning, because nothing is preordained. I think this will become the motto of this conference. So I think we should stop here, because otherwise the debaters would have nothing else to debate.
Yeah, right.
But just so that we are all clear, that the essence of this debate is really whether the CSOs is becoming unnecessary or more necessary than ever. Also, I think we're trying to basically assess whether the role as currently structured and supported by organization is actually fit for purpose in this new era. So well, shall we bring the debaters up? Shall we bring the debaters up?
Come on up.
I think we should. Please, join me in welcoming the debaters to the stage. Big applause, please. That's more like it. Thank you. So, on the foresight, and just so that you get your mind around this, the foresight that CSOs are, or CSO is now relevant, we have Dr. Alexa White. Wave, thank you. Michael Chen and Dylan Ziegler.
And arguing against the motion that we're not becoming outmoded and ready for the whatever heap is starting, let's see, right here is Kelly Windsor-Fisher, HSBC. Bamashe Onabanjo from ELF Cosmetics. And Alexis Morgan.
Now, without losing any neutrality whatsoever, or losing any of our neutrality, I will temporarily taking allegiance for the for team.
And I'll be representing the against team. But before we get into this, we want to take the pulse of the room. So, because after our debaters speak, you are going to be to decide the winner by the very scientific method of clapping. So we're going to do a plastic run. Do you want to do that?
Yes, so shall we take the temperature of the room? So this is a pre-vote. This is, in fact, your first and only opportunity to express your opinion, because after that, as Joe said, you will be judging, after the jury will come on stage, judging the team that has done the best job. So this is important time to get the temperature of the room. If you agree with the motion that the CSO is now irrelevant, cheer and clap now. Don't be shy, don't be shy. We're not looking who is clapping.
I don't think they're shy.
No, you go ahead.
All right, and if you disagree with the motion that the CSO is now irrelevant, please clap and cheer.
Okay.
And is anyone undecided? All right. One of our CSO friends here is still trying to figure out what she wants to be if she grows up, but we'll get into that.
We have seen rooms being turned over more than once through the merit of the argumentation, so don't be discouraged. Things could change in your favor. Now, again, I just want to reiterate that I want you to be really clear and known that this motion is not a statement of truth, it is a provocation. And our debaters have bravely agreed to defend, bravely agreed, you can see the breath of anticipation for Michael. They have bravely agreed to take a position for the sake of the debate. And in doing so, they might very well argue beyond their own conviction. They might have to force slightly their side, actually whichever side they stand on, for the sake of the debate. And this requires a mix of creativity, intellectual agility, even empathy. So please, my ask of you is to express your appreciation and encourage them along the way. You can clap, you can whoop when they make a good point. This is authorized for this debate.
All right, so some house rules. There's no kicking and scratch. Oh, no, that's not right. So the debaters are going to each have 3 minutes to speak. A member of the for team will speak, followed by a member of the against team. After you all have spoken, we're going to turn to our attention to the jury. Where is the jury? Oh, right down here.
Please clap for the jury.
There's our jury.
Woohoo!
And the jury is going to then give some feedback to our debaters, let's just introduce him. My old friend from way back, George Basile from that's you. Pamela Gill, George is from Arizona State University. Pamela Gill Alabaster from Columbia University. And Ginger Sykes-Torres from Local First Arizona. The jury, though, this is odd. This is maybe a UK versus American thing. The jury actually doesn't decide who wins. The jury's job is to present challenges to the debaters. They're going to shine a light on what they liked, but also what they feel the debaters might have missed. So the debaters, you have to take good notes when they are giving their sage wisdom. Then the debaters will each confer among themselves before one member, or maybe two, but probably one member of the team you'll pick will return to the stage to deliver a final rebuttal. This is where the gloves come off, but still no kicking and scratching and all that. And hopefully you will clinch victory. And by the way, and then all of you will vote by, again, virtue of clapping, or maybe we'll even bring out the app with the meter and all that stuff. By the way, the 2 times previous that I participated, either as a debater or as a co-moderator, the team that had the least applause when we did the pulse of the room, in both times won. So be open-minded, be ready to hear not for what you agree with or think should be the winner, but who made the best presentation.
Thank you for that clarification, Joel. That's very important. So are we ready to kick things off? Woo! Okay, we're going to be diving in. So on the far side, starting, we have Dr. Alexa White.
And on the against side, we have Kelly Windsor Fisher.
Now, fun fact. As a child, Alexa dreamt of becoming the next crocodile hunter. She went on to study, that's going to be a hard one for me, she went on to study herpetology. And spent her early days chasing and occasionally catching lizards in the deserts. So if anyone here is cold-blooded, she'll spot you.
And Kelly can identify virtually any dog breed with 95% accuracy, and I guess we'll find out what your KPIs are and all of that. Today, she's here to doggedly sniff out weak arguments.
Nice. Nice.
All right. Okay, so we're going to set the clock at 3 minutes. We're going to wait for it to be set. Ready? Alexa, floor is yours.
My work lives at the intersection of policy, corporate power, and community harm. And I've learned the hard way that vision without authority is not strategy. So for today, emphasis on for today, the CSO is irrelevant. Not because sustainability doesn't matter, but because survival-led climate accountability must sit with the executives who control the capital, the risk, and the revenue. So modeled by finance, enforced by legal, and built by revenue. I'd like to walk you through 3 reasons why accountability always follows power. First, climate risk is a financial risk. I have watched sustainability teams bring real risk signals to leadership and then spend months translating them into finance language only to be told that their capital plan has already been locked. Predicting and adapting to climate disasters is inherently tied to financial exposure. So what does that really mean? Insurance volatility, asset impairment, supply chain disruption. Climate scenarios directly affect balance sheets, long-term valuation, and without the CFO, we cannot drive structural change. Second, climate fallout is a legal and regulatory risk. I've worked with regulators and advocates on chemical and climate accountability, and when governance is fragmented, response slows exactly when legal exposure accelerates. Climate change introduces really tangible legal liability, so think litigation, regulatory enforcement, fiduciary duty challenges. General counsel really has to treat the planetary limits as a structural regulatory framework. When climate governance is delegated to a CSO, legal accountability becomes fragmented. And last, climate transition is a commercial risk, and revenue leaders have to really own that. The levers of power inside companies are capital allocation, risk management, and revenue generation. Climate transitions reshape markets. Customers demand lower carbon products. Supply chains are being redesigned. As a scientist, my research training has taught me to distrust indicators, particularly those that look too precise but are disconnected to decision power. So here is the test for you. On Monday, please show me where your climate sits in 1, your capital plan, 2, your risk register, and 3, your revenue forecast. If it is not there or in any of those 3, then it is not owned. So again, modeled by finance, enforced by legal, built by revenue, accountability always follows power. Thank you.
Well done. Well done, Alexa.
All right, we reset the clock. Back to 3 minutes. Kelly, it's all yours.
Imagine I'm holding up an everyday item we would all recognize, a hammer. I think we'd all agree it's a pretty useful tool. Despite hundreds of years of new innovations in construction, we still use hammers to build our homes, to build our schools, to build the chairs you're sitting on. And now imagine that I've just told you the roof is about to cave in. Oh, and by the way, there's just a tiny nail holding it on. Before acting, some people might say, well, wait a minute, is the hammer really the right tool? Maybe we need a research report. Another person might say, but you're a woman, do you even know how to use a hammer? And yet another, and I think this is all very familiar to us, will probably say, roof's not going to cave in. I don't even think there is a roof. But I would argue that most of people in this room would just pick up that hammer and get the roof back on. So let's put this in non-carpenter terms. The business world's metaphorical roof is about to cave in from the weight of climate change. We know that strong sustainability strategies generate tangible business results and tackle those physical risks. But in 2025, public and private climate programs have been either scaled back or ended. The roof is about to cave in, and our opponents today will tell you that somehow the one person whose job it is to address all of that is irrelevant? So I ask you, is the CSO irrelevant, or have they not been given the proper tools to succeed? A 2022 report showed that globally, half of all CSOs are 2 or more levels below the C-suite. The hammer is being given to someone who's not even allowed on the ladder to reach the roof. Research indicates that over a third of businesses lack the funds to achieve their commitments. We can't afford a hammer right now. That's really useful. That's about as helpful as those first episodes of that show, Naked and Afraid, Go Build a House with Nothing. CSOs often have a wide purview with scope creep and must navigate 180-degree pivots. We're sustainability, but we're also philanthropy and comms and risk and regulatory affairs. With the roof about to cave in, these CSOs are being asked to go hang some curtains. But barriers are not a sign of irrelevance. They signal structural failure. Despite all of that, the CSO is more relevant than ever. We're not just climate scientists, we're experts in our business and sectors, and we created the strategies, and only we can see them through to success. Imagine a company that was, say that their chief legal counsel was going to go the way of the travel agent. If they were going through $1 billion litigation, would they say, no, we're going to go it alone, we're fine? I don't think so. So I leave you with a question. Did the roof cave in because of the hammer, or because of the failure of the people building the house to use it properly? Thank you.
Well done. That was a very, very confident first round. I think really well done. It's not easy to go first. But on the 4 sides, Alexa, I think you said that the CSO is becoming irrelevant because the model has become a bottleneck. For business to survive, sustainability must sit with executives who control capital, risk, and revenue.
And Kelly said on the against side that the CSO is more relevant than ever because when the roof is caving in, you don't throw out your tools, you use them.
Nice metaphor on the against side, I have to concede. Anyway, next up, we have Michael Chen coming to the stage.
And on the against side, we have Bamashe Onabanjo.
Nice gesture. So, fun fact. Michael, please take time to adjust your mic while I say your fun fact. Michael has run 10 full marathons, and apparently that wasn't exhausting enough. So he signed up for Berlin and New York next. Let's see if he sets the pace for today. And the timer is set.
I like it, I like it.
And Bamache has a reputation of being something of a slow eater. Maybe that's where the slow movement came out of. Not from hesitation, but because out of curiosity for the flavor profile. So if dinner runs long, she's not running late, she's just conducting research. And now she's going to give us all something to chew on.
Absolutely.
All right, Michael, the timer is set, as I said. Good luck.
Thank you. 12 years ago, on Christmas morning, my grandpa sat next to me and said, Michael, you are the last hope to make this world a better place. I also have to add an anecdote that I was his favorite grandchild. He gave me ESG articles year after year, sustainability reports. And he even gave me Clorox's sustainability report when I was 17 years old. I thought he was ludicrous. I thought this was just, a get-rich-quick scheme, fundraiser, etc. Didn't know what I wanted, really didn't know what he meant. I then jet set off to Thailand, where I then taught rural students abroad. That's when I realized that I had to make an impact and really drive it forwards. I was actually teaching sustainability in my classroom. I didn't need my director to be able to actually tell me I need to do that. I took the action and onus on myself. So this kind of translates directly to the role in business. That fundamentally, for the reasons why the CSO exists, which is to embed sustainability across the business, the need has never been more prevalent to share that responsibility through the entire organization in every role. I'll take it. Honestly, I'll take it. My first point, chief sustainability officers have gotten us here and created the conditions. But in perpetuity and in the future, it has to happen everywhere. My second point, sustainability comes realized when sustainability is relevant and being able to bring people across the business and bring them along the journey and speak that language for them. Third point, we need to be able to move faster and push even more harder than we ever have, and that's going to take a village. So how are we going to do this? So being able to implement this across the business. My current role at Okta, I'm currently a sustainability program manager for our workplace team. I sit under our real estate org where I manage our entire portfolio of our buildings. I work with being able to procure renewable energy with our bundled recs, with our power purchase providers, being able to phase out refrigerants, being able to manage our operational waste, water reduction in our offices, and being able to deal with our landlords as suppliers and being able to engage them with green lease language. These are just a few examples how I'm fundamentally leaning on these teams who don't have sustainability in their title to be able to really drive sustainability forward. My second point, how we're going to be able to make sustainability relevant across the organization. Being able to bring our sales and marketing folks from a SaaS and being able to think about from a product perspective, that we need to think about what the customers are thinking about, and that being able to bring the sales folks on the journey with us so they're able to be able to articulate our sustainability program to them. And thirdly, we need to be able to move fast. And how we're going to do this, no one can drive a net zero target by 2030 alone. They need a whole village, myself included, to be able to drive that forward and being able to pull levers of influence with folks who don't have sustainability in their title. So in closing, I'm not just here to honor my grandpa's conviction. Fundamentally, we all need to try something new and fundamentally try to iterate and be scrappy. So for all the CSO in the rooms, please plug your ears for this entire argument and just ignore the fact that I might be interviewing with one day and I would love to be a CSO. But honestly, at the end of the day, yeah, I feel empowered to be able to drive this forward, and so sustainability needs to be able in all hands. Thank you.
Woo! Well done, Michael. It sounded a bit more like a sprint at the end, actually. You went a little bit over time, so I think we should pass that extra time to the next against.
All right, Bamache, take it away. It's all yours.
In 2022, catastrophic floods submerged about a third of Pakistan, taking lives, displacing millions, and eroding cotton crops. An environmental disaster triggered a humanitarian crisis, causing people to lose their loved ones and disrupting supply chains for companies reliant on Pakistan for cotton crops. This is one of the many ways that sustainability has proven time and time that it is an existential risk. and existential risks must be overseen at the highest level within an organization. Hence, a case for the continued relevance of the Chief Sustainability Officer within the C-suite. Thank you. I agree with Michael. Not every company needs a CSO, but that does not support the conclusion that the role is irrelevant. The CSO role is emergent. It becomes relevant as a company's business and operation grows, supply chains become more complex, and stakeholders increase. In this case, the CSO serves as a compass and an accountability partner, strategizing with executive leadership in conversations where overall corporate direction and strategy is formed. This allows for an advocate, amplifying sustainability conversations in traditional business deliberations, because if sustainability considerations are introduced late, they become constraints, but when they are introduced early, they become strategy. You may ask why the role of the CSO is relevant. Just like Michael rightly argued, if the goal is to embed sustainability with people who don't have sustainability in their titles, I agree. However, time has proven that more data does not necessarily lead to action. Here, the CSO remains relevant as a coordinating force, setting strategy, KPIs, goals, and sequencing change, making sure that subject matter experts who don't have sustainability in their titles continue to embed sustainability considerations even as pressure mounts from their traditional, business goals and KPIs. Lastly, the Chief Sustainability Officer is a strategic counterweight. Because companies must deliver value to their shareholders and the performance is often incrementally tracked on a short-term basis, mostly quarterly, sustainability considerations run the risk of being put to the back burner because they take a longer term to materialize and they're more cumulative. The CSO becomes relevant in this instance to serve as a strategic counterweight, keeping longer-term risks in focus while also exploring efficiencies that can coexist within traditional business priorities. Thank you.
Well done, and right on cue. Fantastic second round. So, Michael, on the foresight, you are saying that the CSO, somehow reluctantly, is relevant because we are entering the implementation era. And you're saying a new generation of scrappy leaders at every level of the organization is taking the reign to execute the strategies from the ground up. Amen to that.
And on the against side, Bamachet said that the CSO remains relevant because they, all of you, are the compass we need more than ever to guide us through the existential sustainability risks, which are only becoming more complex and more urgent. Well done, Bamachet.
Great. So, final round, last but not least, Dylan Ziegler on the foresight.
And on the against side, we have Alexis Morgan.
All right, so Dylan, fun facts. Dylan is grieving, even though she's smiling. She's grieving the loss of her beloved 1988 Toyota Hilux, which once dramatically burst into flames on the side of a Texas interstate. Thankfully, she walked away unharmed, as you can tell, though we can't say that much about her truck, which did not. Dylan clearly can handle a little heat, which will come handy tonight.
And on the against side, we have, oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong thing here. We still have Alexis. Alexis helped discover, as a kid, a new species of beetle in northern Canada. So I guess it's not just John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Which means that while most of us were just in the playground, he was actually conducting and advancing science.
Great. Dylan, 3 minutes. Good luck.
Thank you to my stellar teammates, esteemed competitors, our jurors, and our moderators. Fellow sustainability practitioners, it's time for us to live up to our potential as bold thinkers, agents of change, revolutionary voices. To do that, we need to transform how sustainability leadership shows up in our companies. In the early 2000s, when the Chief Sustainability Officer role emerged, sustainability needed to prove its legitimacy in corporations. Boardrooms were unfamiliar with the core tenets of sustainability. Centralizing the work under a C-suite leader made a lot of sense as a way for sustainability to join the adults table. Companies with a CSO were at first considered the vanguard. CSOs achieved hard-won, meaningful wins. And over time, like worker safety or the 5-day work week, having a CSO became the norm in mainstream business. With normalization, the effectiveness of the CSO model began to break down. Having a CSO, once a radical act for a company, became routine, and its potential to disrupt business as usual was weakened. Our field exists to positively transform business from the inside. We're here to meaningfully confront the climate crisis. But I don't think any of us in this room believe that we're where we need to be today. We as sustainability practitioners pride ourselves on being creative, resourceful, nimble, yet we've calcified around the idea that a chief sustainability officer is the best way to drive change. It's time to apply our creativity and agility to how sustainability shows up inside corporations. I lead sustainability at UMG. At Universal Music Group, we have a relatively small carbon footprint and a huge influence platform. So I spend less time in the boardroom and more time implementing an internal consulting model. It applies a bespoke approach to opportunities in each segment of our business. My work with Lady Gaga or Abbey Road Studios will look very different from the sustainability work at Microsoft or Crocs or HSBC or Rivian. We must each align sustainability to our core business and make whatever the business case is in our own contexts. So why are we still attempting to structure sustainability leadership in the same way across such radically different companies? Uniform structure in a dynamic system is part of why we're falling short of our goals. If we're serious about decarbonizing our companies and building a more just, regenerative form of business, we must diversify our governance models. The question is no longer whether sustainability belongs in business. Of course it does. The question is whether we are bold enough to evolve how we lead.
Nice.
I think if we were voting on who has the coolest job in this room, but we're not. Alexis, take it away.
All right, well, I don't get to play with Lady Gaga, but I do get to do some other cool things. And maybe I'm just going to take the pulse of the room. How many of you in the room are CSOs? We've got a few, okay. And how many of you in the room would like to have their jobs? Few more? All right, well, let's make sure that by the end of this, you're feeling like there is a role for you. Now, I'm a water person. I'm an unabashed water nerd, and I hope there's a few other water nerds in here, and I'm counting on their votes, too, for later. But one of the things about being a water person is that water is one of those things that is everybody recognizes as super important and all the rest of it, and then everybody promptly proceeds to ignore because climate's the bigger thing at the table. And that's kind of the same sort of thing when it comes to sustainability and the chief sustainability officer. Now, to me, the role of the CSO has never been more important than today. We need CSOs as key people. They act as critical advocates first and foremost. We did a recent study with GlobeScan this past year, and we found above and beyond anything else, people want companies to step up and advocate on sustainability issues and on water issues in particular. So we need chief sustainability officers to play those kinds of roles. They need to be there for that. Secondly, we absolutely need them to be a coordinating function. It's great and fine, and our opponents here have sort of argued, look, let's integrate this into all the other functions and all the rest of it. And I say to you on that, if any of you were parents in the room, if you've said to your kids, hey, you know what, go do the laundry and go do this and go do that, and do they like knock it out of the park straight away? Like, no, they don't do it, in fact, most of the time. They need to be guided, they need to be chased often, and they need somebody to be there to support them in those functions. It's a critical function to be an integrator as a chief sustainability officer. And if you don't have that, what you end up with is the Spider-Man thing of like, hey, you, no, you, because you'll have all these other members of the C-suite looking at each other for sustainability otherwise, and that's not going to work. Thirdly, it's around talent attraction and retention. There was a study done last year that looked at about 8,600 different workers and found that 88% of those people were more motivated and more loyal to a company when sustainability performance was there. The Chief Sustainability Officer makes that happen. And lastly, it's critical for growth. Nobody in a company, I would argue, has as long-term a vision as a Chief Sustainability Officer. They are there to think about the opportunities of tomorrow, and Lord knows there are going to be some problems that need fixing. CSOs are there to find those opportunities and make that happen. So in conclusion, I would say a few different things. First, that we've really never had a greater need for a CSO than today. And at the end of the day, CSOs need to be at the C-suite table, in my opinion. Because, as my Prime Minister Mark Carney said a few days ago in Davos, if you're not at the table, all of us here in this room are on the menu. Thank you.
Well done, third round of debaters. So, Dylan, you challenge us to be bold and radical and to look candidly at the last 20 years and how the current CSO model has simply not delivered the transformation we need, therefore is becoming irrelevant.
First of all, I have to say that I don't think on any of your bingo cards that you would see both Lady Gaga and Spider-Man showing up in this debate. Alexis said that the CSO is increasingly indispensable because sustainability is a systemic challenge that requires both the role and the unique skills behind it to integrate action across the business, and that sustainability, like water, cannot be silenced. Siloed and silenced.
This is the side of the nice analogies.
Yeah.
Well done, both teams. Please join me in giving them a huge round of applause.
Nice.
This is not over yet, because now it's over the jury member, but not yet the judges. So please, first, join me in welcoming the judges to the stage. So we have George Basile, Pamela Jill Alabaster, and Ginger Sykes-Torres. Please. All right, jury members, let me remind you of your role. You are in the very enviable position of stirring things up a little. You heard what the debaters had to say, and now we want you to tell us what you love, because there is much to be loved on both sides of the argument, what you think might have been missing and some of the blind spots that you feel some of the debaters might have missed, and then what question might they want to answer for when they come for their final retort? Just that. You have up to 2.5 minutes. We're going to put the timer back at 2.5 minutes. And whoever wants to go first, I think Pamela, you said you wanted to go first? Yeah, sure. Please come at the front so that everyone can see you.
All of our plans are laid.
Whichever you want.
All right.
I will.
First, I want to thank both teams. This is exactly the kind of conversation we need to have about our profession. Let me start with the team arguing for the motion that the CSO role is irrelevant and that the model presents a bottleneck. You've suggested, and it's going to be hard because I can't keep turning around, that sustainability should be integrated with financial, legal, revenue-generating accountability at the core of decision-making where the power is centralized, and that it should belong to everyone. I think that was Michael's, not only embedded, but also belong to everyone. And I think that's a compelling vision, but I challenge you on 2 points. Decentralization without clear decision rights leads to ambiguity and non-ownership. When trade-offs arise, for example, between product gross margin or Scope 3 emissions reduction, or resilience versus quarterly earnings, who makes the call? Or if climate or plastic targets aren't met, who answers to the board? Is that the CFO or the general counsel? The point being is that if everybody owns sustainability, nobody owns sustainability. And while I agree that the sustainability expectations have evolved, the reality is that the decision rights haven't evolved with the expanded role requirements. And so if the role doesn't have a seat at the executive team, if the role doesn't contribute to enterprise strategy, if the role doesn't have capital allocation, it's not set up for success. Now, for the team arguing against the motion that the CSO remains essential, you've made a very strong case for complexity, coordination, and long-term orientation. I think for me, the pressure test is this is a design issue. It's not whether or not the CSO is irrelevant. It's whether the role is currently designed, has the authority to deliver on the required expectations. In 2024, only 56% of the G250 had a dedicated C-level sustainability leader. So the question is really whether the first-generation design of the CSO role is outdated, and how do we evolve it to meet the needs for the future.
Thank you, Ginger. Well done, Q. Maybe you want to keep the mic, Joe, so that you can, if you move your head. Yeah, you can use that, yeah.
Ready to rumble?
You go.
All right. So first of all, a round of applause for our debaters here. Come on. I mean, these people are awesome, right? So you just heard from Pamela some very, I think, central points to this. You gave us a little history lesson. I'm going to raise our heads up. We heard a bunch of, and I wrote these words down. We heard power and structure. We heard tools. We did not hear AI too much. We heard about change. We heard about leadership, strategy. Too many words, so I came up with my own. I think the fundamental role of a sustainability officer, I came up with an exterminator. No, it all makes sense, right? I'm done. So the fundamental role of a CSO is to take the external and integrate it into the business, which is called externalization, right? The challenge with that is that means the CSO needs to know the world the way a CEO knows their company. And the challenge with that is that it also means that a CSO has to be inherently collaborative, right? That's a team sport. If you're going to take the outside and bring it in, you got to do it together, right? We heard about the need for power over here and the right structure. Do CSOs have the right power and structure to be able to bring the outside in, or is their implicit focus on their organization something that makes them bounded and constrained where they can't bring it in? Does that make sense? Right? Does that make sense? So that when I think we've run up against that today. I think we've run up against that today where we're seeing the bigger world. So here's my question to you guys given that. I want you to think a little bit more about innovation, right? When sustainability started, we innovated that whole space. Is today's CSO the right innovator? And the second thing I want you to think about is that collaboration piece. Are our CSOs set up to be the collaborators that we need? And if they're not, what should they be? Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Great job to both sides. We've heard a lot about kind of how internally this could affect operations at corporations. And I want to speak to how this might look externally. How would communities access sustainability professionals or folks that they want to reach that could really impact changes at the very local level? So, for example, which model will make everyday people's lives better, ensure that our communities thrive, ensure that small businesses in our communities, the backbone of our communities, continue to have a chance, and ensure that vulnerable communities are not put in a more precarious situation by corporate actions. I want to remind everyone that CSOs carry a really heavy weight. Their directions that they take with large companies affect our culture. It affects the ability of our elders. I am of the Navajo Nation, and it affects the ability of our elders and our future generations to access traditional plants on the Navajo Nation that may be disappearing from climate change. And that in turn affects the ability to pass down traditions and stories and relevance. And so to both teams, I want to ask, is sustainability, let's get beyond the emissions, the data, the KPI, the metrics, and think about how equity is ensuring that the solutions work for us, all of us, and how your model will ensure that vulnerable communities, including indigenous communities, rural communities that are often located very far away from city centers where many of all of us work and reside, how can they have a voice in the decisions that affect them? And how would each of your models affect the community's ability to either be impacted by the corporations in a positive or negative way, and also have the ability to have a voice in corporate governance? So that's my challenge to you all. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Pamela, George, and Ginger for great comments.
Thank you.
All right, so debaters, you heard what our jury has to say. Cut the thumb. You got it. You heard what they say, and it's now your opportunity to respond. Here's what's going to happen. You now have 5 minutes to huddle in your teams to prepare for their final rebuttal. This is your last chance to convince us and all of us and clinch victory. Now, audience, don't break out your phones, because we're going to, while they're conferring, figuring this stuff out, we're going to invite Stuart Goldsmith back to the stage to provide us some hot takes on what he's heard so far. Stu?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joel. Hello.
Get my mic.
Well done, everybody. Lots of passion there on both sides. Very exciting. Oh, they're leaving. I'm going to talk about them. I thought they'd be here. That takes me off the hook. We heard from Alexa, who said accountability always follows power. I don't know if she means it follows it around. We can only hope so. We can all agree with Kelly, who said the best thing to do is when CSOs are naked and afraid, we should arm them with a hammer. Marathon runner, and let's not forget favorite grandchild Michael, says the CSO built the roadmap, but the direction of travel is please employ Michael. Bamishay sees the CSO as a compass. Remember compasses? No? Something indispensable that no one cares about or talks about. Yeah. Dylan, of course, a bold thinker and an agent of change, and the only person who brought along a stand for her tablet. And Alexis doesn't get to play with Lady Gaga, but he does believe in superheroes like Spider-Man and Mark Carney. So they're going to huddle, and I've got a few minutes with you while they huddle, just to sort of reflect on some of the contradictions. One of them I'm living right now. Many of you will be thinking, what? This guy's a climate comedian. He's flown here from England. He's flown across the Atlantic to talk about the climate crisis. And that is a contradiction. It's bananas. But it's better, I think. It's better than flying across the Atlantic and not talking about the climate like you've probably done. Everything in climate is a contradiction. Everything I'm wearing is second-hand, but to get it, I had to kill a man. One of the big contradictions, Eden, if you're there, one of the big contradictions for me is that I decided, maybe you decided this as well, I decided no more new bad stuff. You know, I'm aware of all the things I do historically, all the technology, the comfort, the conveniences. I'm aware of all of the things, but I decided no more new bad stuff. And then AI came along, and I was like, what's that? Magic robot? You betcha. Virtual butler online, free therapy. Has anyone here used an AI chatbot for free therapy? It's incredible. Oh, magic robot, why do I cry? And we know, of course, we know that AI has a huge impact, a huge energy and water impact, but it can also help with climate solutions, according to itself. And I really think we're at the precipice of a moment, a big technological moment. And we've been at precipices like this before. It's fun to imagine looking back at this moment 20 years from now. The people who first discovered asbestos, they must have been like, this stuff's amazing, and hey, no downside. We still don't know. We still don't know what happens 20 years after you start vaping. Perhaps your personality grows back. We simply don't know. Now, here's a contradiction for you, and then we'll get back to the huddle and get back to the debate. The contradiction is simply this. I performed on Conan a few years ago. I was very excited. I performed this joke. It's a simple little joke. My family are really into communication. We taught our children baby sign language. We taught them baby sign language when they were little so that they could communicate. This is a real thing. They can communicate before they can even speak. You teach them a couple of simple signs that could save your life. They could say milk, biscuit, snipers, 3, on the roof, go, go, go. It could save your life. Now, I told that joke. We clipped it up. We put it on Instagram. It went viral. It was seen by 35 million people. So in many ways, I am now unaffordable for GreenBiz, but my loyalty to the cause is absolute. Now, I looked up on an AI chatbot. I said, tell me, please tell me. You've got to say please. It's important to be civil, just so that in case one day you might be spared. I said, please calculate the energy impact of those 35 million views. And it told me it was the same energy as it would take to power my house for 7.5 years. So really, I'm presented with a contradiction. If I want to be the most effective climate communicator that I can be, I've got to be significantly less successful. And guys, I'm doing my best. Now, before we, thank you. Please, if you do see this material, if you see it on the live stream or on Instagram or, God forbid, LinkedIn, please don't like, subscribe, and share it more than a handful of times. Now, we did ask, and let's see the figures here. We can see up on the screens. We did ask the Trellis briefing. It's not just for the people in this room. It's for the people at home as well. Everyone in the Trellis briefing, we canvassed them earlier today. We said, is the CSO irrelevant? And they answered. We got some great answers from them. Well, let's look at the answers. We saw the results are in. 75% of CSOs said that they were not irrelevant. Although it is worth noting, as the team dug into the results, we noticed a few people who responded yes to this question had actually answered it wrong and thought they were saying that the CSO is still relevant. So there's a bit of wriggle room in these numbers. Thank you very much for listening to me. I shall return you to the debate. It's been a great joy to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. That was great. The world will run much more smoothly if you had a bit more of that kind of humor in a discussion, particularly at COP, right?
Not that this is funny stuff, but we have to have a good time, right? You know, this has to be, we have to bring humor into all this and make this a little bit light because it can be otherwise ponderous. But this is incredibly, I find it amazing and exciting. And so we're going to do the rebuttals now. And this time, the against team is going to go first. And Kelly, you're going to speak with them. You got 1 minute and a half,
90 seconds
They're all
to
gonna
seal the deal.
Join here. We're going to set the clock at 1.5 minutes.
Well, I'll start
Wait
by...
a sec. We need 1.5 minutes on the timer.
We can set the timer, please.
Here we go.
Here we go. Kelly.
Well, I don't need 1.5 minutes. Apparently, according to them, climate change for businesses is solved and we're done and we can all go home, right? Bye. Bye, everybody. I'm going to go home and be with my daughter. Bye. No, right? Does anyone believe that they just presented a model for how our businesses are going to effectively tackle climate change? Does anyone believe their business has now integrated it so well that no one has to look after all those people who have it as a fraction of their job? So again, I started talking about a hammer. Let's think about a house. If I told you, I'm so excited, I'm going to build a new house for my family to live in, But I've decided to give a different room to a bunch of different people, right? My aunt is going to build the living room. I think my grandma's going to put on the porch. I have a friend of a friend who says they're great at kitchens. And we're all just going to figure it out, right? And hope it comes together as a solid house. Would you all be a little worried about me? I heard no example for how the control of a decentralized model is going to work from the opposing team. I think it's a lovely vision. We've all said, I've been doing this work for 23 years, we've all said we're doing this to put ourselves out of a job. The past year proved that we are not there yet. And I would actually say we took some steps backwards, a lot of us, not everyone. And so I ask you, did they present a model for where we can trust that legal will have one objective, comms will have one objective, everyone will have a little piece of it, and no one will look after them? I don't think so. And what I'll tell you is, at least in my company, when an objective is set for someone like that, the CSO does it. They set it at the start of the year, and they track the progress at the end of the year.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Good one. I told you the gloves will start to come off at this stage, and now we have the 4 team who's got their final retorts. The timer is set. You take it away.
We believe sustainability is necessary for business. We believe that the CSO is potentially not fit for purpose in the context that we find ourselves in today. As the field has evolved, what we've found is that the sustainability officer is serving too many masters. We started out as innovators with a clear purpose, and we've ended up being stretched so thin to create change for the elders of the community, for the internal stakeholders, for the climate itself, for our employees, for our customers, that we really need to think hard about whether one person across the entire strategy is the way to do this. The structure is not fit for purpose. Innovation is the key to change. If we double down and create a situation where we are stuck in our own ways, we are going to fail. We have so much in front of us that we need everyone to help us succeed.
Well done, well done. So, the moment of truth is coming. I remind you that those debaters obviously took a position for the sake of the debate, going beyond their own argument, and what we're asking you to vote on is on how compelling the argumentation have been, for your benefit, the audience. We also ask you to hold on to your own opinion, and at this stage really start judging the merit of the arguments on each side of the debate. So, if you think that the 4 team, which argued for the motion that the CSO is now irrelevant, has put up the best debate, clap now. Come on!
And
right.
if you think that the against team saying that CSO is not irrelevant. Right?
No. If that team put up the best debate.
Wait.
Not their opinion, remember.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. Of course. We should have done rehearsal. I
just want to be fair.
No, you're right. That the 4 team, or the against team, put up the best argument, made the most compelling case. Please clap right now.
Do we have a winner?
I think it's not even close, Sophie. I think we
know. Joel was really looking forward to pull out his clapometer app, so he's going to be very disappointed that there's not even a close call that we need to pull out technology to call this one out. But I do think that both teams did an amazing job putting this argument forth. So do you agree with that?
Yeah. I hope we did what we set out to do, which is to give each and every one of you a glimpse of what the two sides are, how to think about how to think about this going forward, maybe in your own job, your own companies, your own career, perhaps. But let's, again, we have this incredible, the debaters, our jury here. Let's give them one more round of applause. And a big round of applause for Sophie for bringing this incredible experience to us.
And to you, Joel and the Trellis group for creating a space for such a debate today with an audience of CEO sustainability leaders, which is obviously not the easiest thing for this team to achieve. But I really want to say at this point you have noticed that who wins the debate is somehow secondary to the exercise. It's really about exploring those tensions in a way that feels productive and constructive. So I think both teams should hug it out, first of all.
Yeah. Nice.
And then...
Yeah. And now we're going to end this part of the program